All right, I'm be sharing with you a bunch of quick tips to be on vacation more, enjoy the beach, and spend less time doing those estimates. So if you'd like to spend less time estimating and more time at the beach enjoying your vacation, you're in the right place. I'm be sharing with you two different mindsets and then two big kind of concepts and ideas with some tips and how to function and make it functional in your business to help you with your estimating. I know this is a pain point for a lot of contractors, spending your evenings, weekends, constantly estimating and not having time to run the business and enjoy, some free time. So can you guess where I am right now? If you know the country where I am currently, drop it in the comments. Comment what country you think I'm in. The first 3 people to get the country right, I will give you my premium estimating course that has all the templates, systems, and information you need to create a full functioning estimating system. So let's jump right in. The first point I want to get across is that with estimating, there is obviously the system, which we're going to get to later, but a big part of being successful with your estimating is to actually know your overhead and how much percentage your business should be charging on overhead. Make sure you're profitable at the end of the job. Far too often I see contractors putting markups, 15, 20, 30%, and they don't really know when I ask them, what percentage of that markup is your overhead? Often they don't know. So if you don't know what your overhead percentage is of your revenue, what you want to do is go look at your past 12 months of revenue, figure out your last 12 months of overhead and, divide the overhead by the revenue, and that'll give you a percentage. Typically for general contractors, I see anywhere from 10 to 20%. So if you're only marking up your estimates by 20, 25%, you're running a 20% overhead, you can see why you're probably not making any money on the back end, because that 5% profit can easily get eaten up in overages with, time going over or spending more costs. So that is pivotal, is understanding your percentage of overhead and make sure you tie that into your quotes so that you know that when you are estimating how much you're actually really profiting and how much is going to overhead. Making sense so far? All right, point number 2 that I want to get across here. And both these are kind of money points and kind of sort of meta, but they're so important to understand. And that is when you're pulling numbers from previous quotes. So if you've done a project previously, last 6 months or 1 year, and you're pulling pricing for, square footages or materials, by this time, and by the time you move into the project, there's probably going to be 5 to 10% inflation on top of the normal pricing that you're used to. So whatever pricing that you think is current, or if you're taking pricing from previous estimates, make sure you're adding an extra 5, 10% on top of materials, as well as labor, because you're going to be moving into the project and you're going to get to the end of the project and figure out, why didn't I make any money on this? Well, a lot of the time it is because of those overages on the costs are now in the future, not the past. And you've estimated the project for, 6 months or 1 year ago, when you should be estimating the project for 6 months from now or 1 year from now when you're actually wrapping up the project. So is that making sense? Third point I'm going to be getting on here, then I'm going to be moving to the fourth one, which is like how to put this all together into an awesome estimating system so you can get to the beach more often, do some fishing, and just get outdoors and enjoy what you like doing. The third point I'm going to be talking about is project management and site supervision. So often when contractors, you've been estimating projects for a long time, typically you're going to be coming up, you don't have any project managers in place. And even if you do, it still isn't usually in the right format. So we want to make sure that you're figuring out how many hours are you going to be spending on a project or project management for site supervision. And there's a few reasons why you want to do this. It's because without knowing that, you're just sort of blind as far as how much you're going to be spending on site supervision. Very easy to go over, and it's very easy to not be profitable as you grow. So you want to be making sure that you're figuring out, okay, this project's going to take 6 months. It's a new home build or, large renovation. Guy's going to be on site probably 1.5, 2 hours a day managing the project or on the phone or, driving to site or whatever it may be. So you're going to be paying someone, or you should be paying yourself if you're the one managing the project. So you want to make sure that you are attributing the right amount of time to supervising and managing a project. And then you're charging, 90, 100, 140, whatever it is, dollars an hour as site supervision costs. And this also goes for your estimating as well as your pre-planning, because you've got to do things like schedules. You maybe have to figure out selections with the client or talk with the designer. You've got to, check the plans. You've got to do your estimates. So all that time before the project even starts, putting material lists together, all that stuff, make sure you're throwing on an extra, 6, 8, 10, 20 hours, depending what it takes you to plan out a project and do all the front end stuff, so that when you roll to the project again, you're being compensated for all that time and you're not getting to the end of the project and not being profitable, because that's the worst place. That's exactly where I do not want you to be. So does that make sense? You're with me here? Make sure you're charging project management time in your estimating. Now we're going to get on to number four. Fourth and final thing I'm going to talk about is systems. You know me, I love systems. And this is where it all comes together. This is what's going to save you the time. Plus, like I mentioned before in the third point with the project management, if you're now putting money aside for project management, now you can afford to hire an estimator or have your project manager estimate, or even a site foreman, if they're knowledgeable in construction, at least know the process. You can now offload the system and delegate the estimating, so that maybe instead of spending, 2 or 3 hours on an estimate, or 1 hour on an estimate, they can do 80-90% of it, get it done. You review it, looks good, make some adjustments, and you can send it off to the client. Now you freed up yourself a ton of time to get out to the beach, to get out to the lake, to go enjoy, why you got into business in the first place, and get some of that freedom. So the big part with systems is you're going to want like a field software, project management software. Don't have one of those in place, go get one. If you do have one and it's taken a long time, you need to build your process better. So that's kind of the first kind of software key. After that, you pretty much just need to figure out and document exactly what you've been doing. You've probably been doing estimating and quotes for 1, 2, 10, 20, maybe even 30 years, depending how long you've been in business or how long you've been managing projects. So take all that knowledge, get it on paper. Nowadays, ChatGPT, all this stuff, it's very easy. Just do bullet points and large steps, and you can create an SOP document that outlines everything that you need to know. Make sure you have like responsibilities and accountability for who needs to get this done if you're handing it off to, whoever. And then create a training video, a quick screen share. Use Zoom or Loom, or, there's a bunch out there. Screen share on your computer. Go through an estimate and just talk about what you're doing while you're estimating. Like, I'm going to look at the plans. I'm going to put them into the markup software to do my takeoffs. I'm going to put it into this software to run my estimate. This is the template you want to pull in. These are the line items that you should be looking at. This is how I calculate labor for demo. This is how I figure out if my electrical contractor is going to cost this much or this much. If you have questions or you're not sure about something, this is who you contact. So just lay it all out. Do a screen share. Do a video. It makes it so easy. Get that done. You can get out here to vacation and enjoy it so much more. We'll see you on the next one.